Thank you, Joanna, and thank you to the Warehouse Education and Research Council. My name is Doug Mefford. I am the Product Marketing Director for Generix Group North America, and I have roughly 25 years of supply chain experience, both in operations as well as software provision. Happy to hold the position that I do and be able to define our roadmap and our investment profiles and where and how we're going to prioritize new features and functions into our solo chain WMS, as well as other offerings we may bring to the North American market. Happy to be with you all, and thank you all for your attendance. I have with me today Ann Yates, one of our pre-sales engineers. Ann, if you'd care to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Doug. Good afternoon, everyone. And as introduced, my name is Ann, and I am one of the pre-sales engineers for the Solo Chain Warehouse Management System. I joined the Generix Group with just over 20 years of experience in managing projects in distribution, retail, and manufacturing.
Great. Thank you, Ann. Just a little bit about Generix Group. We do have a strong global presence with 8 subsidiaries, and we have over 40 countries of coverage directly, with an additional 25 plus in indirect coverage through our reseller network. So we have an ability to deliver solutions throughout the globe. I've been in operation over 25 years and have been publicly traded on the French exchange since 1998. We have in excess of 550 employees globally, with over 6,000 clients in areas and verticals like manufacturing, distribution, retail, as well as logistics transportation providers. With the merger of Generix Group and Solo Globe, we were able to move into the Gartner Magic Quadrant for warehouse management systems. We're proud of the fact to be included with such a diverse and strong group of WMS providers. And the second year we have been included this year. So look forward to continuing that development and participation with Gartner on their MQ. Just a quick legal disclaimer, much like Joanna did. We are not going to constitute a commitment for an offer in anything we talk about today. Some may or may not be commercially available within our solutions, but we'll try to focus on a few different areas, but wanted to make sure we put this disclaimer in, as is usually the case when you're, publishing information out into the ether. So just that quick disclaimer. Our agenda today, as basically has been advertised, we're going to cover consumption changes and the strategies to meet the changing demand patterns associated with the global pandemic related to COVID-19 and kind of post the recovery from that. We also are going to talk about reshoring or nearshoring manufacturing and how manufacturing and distribution together can bring about opportunity. And thirdly, we're going to cover some areas of robotics and automation, some of the tools that can be leveraged to address different labor constraints, as well as what we've encountered with the need for social distancing. So resilience. What is resiliency? It's really the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, kind of an idea of toughness, or the ability to adapt well when facing adversity. A study including over 1,800 supply chain professionals showed almost half, 48% of the respondents had resiliency as their top priority in the coming years. Additionally, efficiency improvements and improvements were high on that priority list, 46 and 44% respectively. So it's a pretty important topic to a large quantity of people in the industry at this point. So we wanted to cover that. The first topic, as mentioned in the agenda, is consumption changes and how those impact the DC. And I am going to turn this portion over to Ann to cover. So Ann?
Great. Thank you, Doug. So consumption changes. Well, COVID-19 is affecting not only what we buy, it's affecting how we buy. It's shifting our purchasing habits towards online services. A really interesting statistic, according to a March 2020 consumer survey, 9% of consumers in the United States bought a product online for the very first time due to physical distancing and self-quarantining practices. And we've seen 10 years of e-commerce growth in just 3 months. There was also an international survey of 105 retailers that reported 75 to 80% of their products are experiencing a fluctuation in their demand. So having an unprecedented demand for some products, Non-discretionary goods, well, no demand for others. The non-essentials, I want, but I don't need them. And all of this, what is it leading to? Sadly, store closures, an increase in online shopping, the buy online and pick up in store. Well, this is personally my favorite. Let somebody else do my shopping. Stores and distributors are really becoming personal shoppers and direct to consumer shipments. And I do think it's really important to point out, along with the significant growth in e-commerce purchases, there will be increases in return goods. The average return rate of online orders is 30%, as compared to 8 to 9%. I believe it's like 8.89% in brick and mortar stores. So these diverse demands with changing consumer behavior is not just driving, but it's literally forcing operational changes in our warehouses. And being agile allows us to respond rapidly and flexibly to these customer demands. So such as a need for flexible picking processes. So traditionally, a warehouse would have one, maybe two operational processes for picking orders. Or if you're really lucky and have a very creative sales team, maybe you have a different operational process for every customer. But as a consultant, I would give my customers a max of 3. I was really driving to 2 different picking strategies. And why did I push so hard at minimizing these processes? Is I was driving towards simplicity, repeatability, and consistency. And as much as we may want to minimize processes, it isn't the reality today. We need to be able to adapt and change quickly. And instead of this, do this one thing over and over again, don't introduce change. We need to be agile and have agile systems that can reliably support and control that variability we're seeing. So typically, a wholesale distributor whose operations supported bulk and single unit of issue picking, I'm picking full pallets, full cartons for a high line, high quantity order, we're now having to fill low line, low quantity e-commerce orders, and a lot of them. So now we're incorporating a loose unit picking operation, and that discrete order picking process is no longer efficient, right? We need that ability to consolidate. We're picking multiple orders simultaneously, whether we're picking directly to a shipping container, a slot of a pick cart, a picking tote to a put wall. We're now incorporating cluster, maybe batch picking operations into our facility. And really, none of these picking concepts are new. But what is new is the need for flexibility and not just supporting one, but multiple strategies. And not only are our processes changing, but our physical warehouse needs to change with it in order to support those processes. So if I go back to that wholesale distributor whose warehouse was laid out entirely to support a bulk operation, floor and pallet racking with random storage, now I need to build variable storage areas that can support those variations in a packaging unit of measure. I'm picking pallets, cases, and eaches, differing pick slot types for those different units of measure. I have now varying allocation rules and picking strategies, as well as my users. And maybe I'm having changes to where I am adding in material handling equipment. So how do I support this variability and demand, picking and storage, is by having agile systems that allow you to design and execute with flexibility and adaptability. So having a system that lends to flexibility and changes in processes is really becoming more and more important, right? It's not a one size fits all. So having something like a process designer, like what is offered in Solo Chain and shown on the presentation slide, enables you to change. I can test. I can verify the effectiveness of that chain and adjust that process to meet my ongoing needs. So let's take a look at, like, especially if you're onboarding a new or temporary employees, or I need to cross-train users to cover a resource who is out sick. It's critical to have an ease of use system that can be configured to adapt to change. So, an example, maybe we just go back to picking and I want to incorporate additional verifications, or maybe I want to present additional information, such as the picking unit of measure. I'm no longer just picking cases, but I might want to tell the user you need to pick an each, or the case of the pallet. Or maybe I want to give product and packaging imaging information. This is what the each looks like. This is what a case or a pallet looks like, showing those new users, right? So these changes can be made simply through configuration versus a programming and development effort. Doug, is there anything else you'd like to add in that section?
No, and I appreciate everything that you've covered here. That flexibility and adaptability is critically important. You know, you talk about resiliency, it's the ability to adapt and overcome difficulty or adversity. We're definitely facing adversity. You know, it reminds me of when I was an operations manager with the Dallas Cowboys handling the merchandise distribution. I had three different facilities: a wholesale distribution facility, a retail and direct to consumer facility, and a manufacturing facility that all were separated. I had to bring them into one facility. So I had a bunch of cross training, per your example, that I had to do with different pickers and different receivers and different people doing different flows, whether it was cycle counting or replenishment work, picking work, etc. If I had had this WYSIWYG, I call it WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get type of configuration tool, would have made it a little bit easier for me to consolidate all of those resources into one facility, cross train them, bring them up to speed, and ensure that there was consistency and repeatability, even with the diverse needs that were present in the facility. So it's a great example in that regard. You know, as we talk about these changes and we talk about how do you manage these changes and overcome and adapt, we also want to talk about management skills. So, Anne, how about some of the management skill elements to address this visibility concern?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Yeah. So almost 50% of over 100 retailers surveyed by the University of Warwick stated visibility of inventory and demand was lacking. So with visibility being a concern, you know, what tools do we have to address it? So system dashboards, lovely multicolored charts and graphics providing real-time views of information, right? It allows me to interact with the data and be proactive versus reactive in my warehouse operations. Maybe I'm looking for visibility to activities in a particular warehouse zone. What tasks are open within a zone? Are there task dependencies? Who do I have working in the zone? Can I better distribute my resources? Do I need to move bodies to a particular area of the warehouse or distribute or redistribute work, balancing those zones to resources? Or maybe it's predictive information, right? How many hours will it take to complete the work I have out on the floor? And how much more work can I give to the floor? And not only do we have dashboards, right? Then there's system alerts. We get asked a lot whether we can send an alert. Maybe it's an alert that something unexpected happened. A user picked short, they zero picked. A task is exceeding an estimated time frame. Maybe somebody is stuck at a location looking for something, or they're having an issue with their device or equipment. Or an alert that something didn't happen, right? I haven't received an order from my ERP in the last 10 minutes. Or maybe for what I would call a predictable event, I don't want to wait for an alert. I don't want to wait for an alert that tells me a bin is empty or I've missed my cutoff time. I want my system to auto-correct. Can it readjust my task priorities and task dependencies to avoid any type of these issues or collisions? Some other graphical information, such as what we'd call a top-down view, which you see in front of you. In Solo Chain, we offer warehouse mapping. So these maps can provide visibility to our inventory, our users, warehouse activities, our equipment, even down to congestion. And I would like to also point out this real-time information is just not key to managing our users and operations, but really it's also key to servicing and retaining our customers. Customer expectations are no longer simply timely and accurate order fulfillment, but there is this expectation of real-time information and communication on order status and delivery. And ultimately, the need for the distributor to up their digital experiences there. And really, it's a no-brainer. We're all consumers. And as a consumer, expectations are changing, and that's not going away. So these changes in demand and expectations are requiring this flexibility and adaptability. So being agile with configurable systems and advanced management tools is going to allow companies to successfully change right along with it. And Doug, I'd like to ask if you have anything you'd like to add there.
Well, the only thing I would add to that is, as I said, I think earlier, you know, management in the warehouse management space, a lot of times is dealt with execution, but the management portion is really managing at that aggregate level and in that intuitive way. So the visual renderings that can present information meaningfully to the management and supervisory staff, allow them to overcome difficulties, maybe before they become a mistake or an error. Customer acquisitions costs being what they are, and customer retention being so critically important to maintaining profitable business growth, you can't have errors happening. So those management tools and ability to fix things before they're a problem are really, really valuable. So we continue to focus on those graphical and visually appealing and intuitive renderings to give managers the ability to move forward. Our next subject is reshoring or nearshoring of manufacturing. There was a Thomas survey that was done, and the president and CEO, Tony Uphoff of Thomas, regards the digital transformation of manufacturing as a key element to post-pandemic success. Per the data of more than 1,000 North American suppliers surveyed, 64% of manufacturers report they're likely to bring manufacturing back to North America. When you think about that, why is that? What are some of the motivations for reshoring? We talked about cost reductions was why a lot of the manufacturing jobs were leaving the North American continent. But in all reality, that's actually only about a 5% cost reduction. And in that 5% cost reduction, there are elements of risk that are introduced for offshoring, like brand risks due to quality problems. Those can be reduced by reshoring. Competing against knockoffs as a result is, as many as 58 manufacturers say there's an insufficient legal protection against intellectual property theft outside of the North American continent. So if I have a loss of IP, I'm competing against knockoffs, therefore impeding into my sell-through and my product brand awareness and loyalty, potentially risking things. And if that be the case, I have a decrease or a slowdown in my cash-to-cash conversion cycle. Nearshoring allows that excessive time to market, delays due to overseas transportation to be eliminated, increases that flexibility to accommodate variable demand and need from a consumer perspective, and really allow reverse logistics for returns or warranties to be more manageable in that closer to market. And if there's any obsolescence or excess inventory carriage, it can be more preventable because you can be more effectively just on time with those reduced cycle times to get here. That and many others, were listed in a Cerasis published article that Terrence Burton, the president and Center of Excellence in Operations Incorporated, and Harry Moser, the president and founder of the Reshoring Initiative, included in their inputs to that article. So there's many others that are out there, but there is much need or much interest in reshoring some of that manufacturing. And a lot of it is due to the changes in demand, right? We talked about the change in demand and covered that very well in regards to the diversity and the way in things are being impacted. But that University of Warwick study from June of 2020 also talked about 80+% of supply is having changes in demand. So the right position with inventory is critical. In University of Warwick professor Jan Godsall, she's a professor of operations and supply chain strategy, was quoted saying, using inventory as a buffer against the disruption of COVID-19 was the most common strategy for retailers. Provides the greatest certainty of supply, but comes at a cost. In contrast, just over a quarter, or 29% of retailers, relied on suppliers with more agile manufacturing and distribution networks, which is a potentially more resource efficient and resilient response to the pandemic. So regardless of the position, that resilient response can be more cost effective and more efficient in bringing manufacturing back toward North America. So one way we at Generix, with our solo chain solution, we included or embedded a manufacturing execution system within our WMS, and that provides a comprehensive real-time data visibility related to manufacturing and distribution and allows for that continuity of operational process. Anne?
Yeah, you said it, really obvious one, the material visibility. What do I need to produce? What do I need to produce it? Where are my raw materials? And not only where are they, where do they need to be? And then really automated task execution, really maximizing the production efficiency by issuing the right materials to the right place at the right time. And then traceability, real-time traceability. As you can see here, SoloChain has a traceability module. You can trace the ingredients used within each step of the process, and in the unfortunate event, really execute a timely and accurate recall. So especially where it gets complicated is when you have a multi-level bill of material, a kitted item within a kitted item, a lot item within a lot item within a lot track finished good. Really, it's imperative that you can trace both backwards and forwards, not only the finished good item, but also its components.
Absolutely. When you think about the MES and the WMS combined in a single solution, it also allows you to increase that visibility while decreasing the complexity of multi-system integrations. Oftentimes, you've got an ERP that integrates with an MES, that also integrates with a WMS, that also integrates with a WES, all of these different three-letter acronym systems. But if you can combine some of those systems into a single source, the ability for ease of integration of those multi-systems is improved. So it's definitely something to consider as you bring manufacturing back to the United States or Canada, kind of across North America, maybe even in Mexico to keep costs down. The third subject we wanted to cover was automation and robotics. Prior to COVID-19, the unemployment in North America was at record lows with only 3.5% in the US. Companies started to look at automation as a way to reduce those human dependencies and labor market constraints. If you consider the likelihood of reshoring manufacturing that may very well take place, labor constraints are likely to be an issue post-COVID as the economy rebounds, as there will be more opportunity across warehousing and manufacturing for the same labor pool. So automation is a way to reduce some of those dependencies. Again, Jane Goncel is quoted, and I'm not going to read that quote, but the global pandemic really shined a light on some of the vulnerabilities in supply chain. Too much human dependency is one of them. Right? There's a need for greater flexibility and visibility, adaptability, if you will, and automation, right, to decrease that dependency. Advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning really can help avoid future disruptions and bring about those priorities of efficiency, right? As we have demands on labor and the customer expectations continue to grow, there is a need to ensure the most effective, efficient, accurate way to move product through a facility to meet those customer expectations. At Generix, we use artificial intelligence and machine learning elements in our data lab to really help us build and construct the proper algorithms and inputs consumption to make the decisions necessary. Some of the automation techniques that can be deployed within a solution, obviously simple sortation enables the reduction of human dependency and reduces the unproductive travel within a warehouse. This can also be accomplished with AGVs and AMRs, right? Autonomous guided vehicles or mobile robots. It really allows the social distancing aspect to be maintained and decreases that unproductive work as you move product throughout the facility from, let's say, a pick module on a conveyor down to a shipping sortation or a packing sortation area. Allows you to effectively keep people separated and focused on the work that they do. Another area or avenue that can be employed that is pick and put to light, right? Not necessarily always considered in automation, but if you think of put to light and pick to light and put to light technologies, what those elements really allow you to do is create work cells where inventory is and bring the demand to the worker, much like the image, totes are conveyed that are orders and then the order is fulfilled with a single user handling an overall section or area, zone within the picking area. And it can be high density picking. Removes the need for handheld devices and allows that hands-free efficiency and accuracy to be increased because the lights tell the user where and what to pick. Much like pick to light, a put to light scenario oftentimes is order consolidation into a put wall cubby, right? A series of cubbies that are there, that light up when a source container is received in a put station. Again, allowing workers to be physically stationary while still continuing to do work and move product through the facility and satisfy those demands. Another option would be an ASRS, automated storage and retrieval system, in combination with goods to operator or goods to person stations. There's a lot of different varieties, whether it's shuttle based or crane based or carousel. These type of solutions allow that physical separation, high density storage to continue to move throughput through the facilities while maintaining, again, the health and safety of the employee by keeping man and machine separated, as well as physical separation to manage the health restrictions that have been encountered with the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, and another option, and this is really more bigger picture, longer term, fully automated touchless fulfillment, right? I'm sure you may have heard the term dark operated warehouse. If you think about dark operated warehouses, a lot of times that's more in the bulk, case in, case out, pallet in, pallet out with AGVs, AMRs, ASRS solutions, and conveyance, because everything's very uniform. There's advances being made, literally week over week, I believe, with what I've been reading and what I've been seeing in, what's referred to as the grabbers and the camera technologies that are being used by robotic picking arms. I had a customer at a previous organization that implemented a ASRS shuttle-based to a picking GTO station and inputted into a sorter. It was a pharmaceutical company, and they actually went the route of a robotics arm picking. So literally, a lot of their fulfillment was completely touchless and was handled all through the WMS coordinating via the warehouse control system and interacting with those machines. So there are definitely viable solutions that are out there. It's just a matter of picking the right solution that meets your needs. And anything that you'd like to cover from an automation, robotics, or even manufacturing perspective.
Yeah, no, I do not. I think you covered it very well. Thank you.
All right. Well, we are starting to run close to end of time. So, we'll just wrap things up with a little bit of a conclusion, right? The consumption changes are inevitable, whether it's the pandemic that we're engaged with or the continued diversification of business and changes that are happening in supply chain. So proper planning and flexible solutions within the distribution centers can really make these changes opportunity. The way in which that we address those are opportunities. As reshoring or nearshoring of manufacturing is likely for many North American manufacturers, the proper tools in place enable that digital transformation or successful transition, and cross-functional DCs can bring about increased opportunity because I can satisfy the customer demand, ensure customer retention. And then robotics and automation solutions continue to mature. The proper investment, the benefits can be tremendous to any business that is applicable. The target use case and selecting the proper automation type are key elements to any automation strategy that will then give you the proper ROI, allow you to maintain employee health while overcoming any labor market challenges or constraints that are experienced. So really, Ann and I would like to thank you for your time and attention. I know that was a lot of material in a short period of time, but that is the allotted time we were given. You'll see our email addresses. Feel free to note them down. You will be receiving a recording of this at a later date, and reach out directly if you'd like, or visit us on the web at the generixgroup.com website. You'll also be seeing communication from us in regards to future webinars and content that address these type of topics, as well as other subjects applicable to the supply chain and warehousing. So again, thank you so much for your time, attendance, and attention. And Joanna, I will turn it back to you.